All right. Hello, guys. Welcome here. It's been, almost a year since our last show here. I'm Brian. Welcome back to Sunday Morning Tinkle. Jason's here with us. Um, so I guess we'll start out. I'll kind of explain why we haven't been on air lately on anything really, and it's simple. Well, our schedules are just too damn busy. So
Yes, sir.
um, it's it's been wild. It's been crazy, but we're back. We're ready. We're going to do things a little different. So obviously this week, much like normal, it is the two of us. In an effort to kind of keep these episodes rolling week after week. It may not always be the two of us here. It could be, it could be one of our brothers here. It could be three of us. It could be four of us. Hell, there could be one of us some weeks. So, but regardless, we'll be here. We're not going away just yet. But yeah, excited to be back, and I'll let Jason kind of, give his thoughts on us being back here.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that it's taken so long, like it has. But again, like what Brian pointed to, our schedules just didn't meet up with the demand of the
Hmm.
show itself. Yeah, would I like to bring a lot of it back consistently for sure? Same thing with No Final Bell. Um, just Marty's too busy going on. Our schedules don't match with that. But uh, it does feel nice to be back. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I kind of missed talking about sports in some way or form. But as that points to, I think I'm ready to start the very first show in a long, long
Yeah.
time.
By the way, if you lost track, this is episode 120 of our show. So I guess you could say maybe we waited a little bit to see, like, to make sure that we had the right flavor for the show. Being kind of a bigger episode. But coming up, of course, we're gonna basically talk all football this show. I had hoped to talk WNBA finals, but let's give a shout out Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, and the entire New York Liberty on that championship. And yeah, it's, and by the way, biggest ratings in WNBA history we just witnessed this year. So women's sports is growing. I just wanted to give that shout out before we get started. So we have a few new segments we're going to do on this show, but to start out, because we really didn't get to do a football preview show, because we really didn't get to do much, going into the season, and we're already about halfway through. I figured now's a good time. Let's kind of get up to speed. So let's kind of we picked two headlines each, or two things during the NFL season that we felt were pretty crucial, or eye opening. So kind of like our Tinkle rundown, that's how we're going to start things out. But there will be a new segment starting on next week's show. But with that, I'll let Jason start with his moments so far this season that's opened his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very up and down kind of season for Buffalo. Starting off hot, everybody thought, oh man, Keon Coleman might actually be the guy, could be a potential first round, you know, wide receiver one player because he made that big catch against Arizona. But fortunately, after those 3 games in a row, then they dropped 2 games against Baltimore and Houston, turned it around against the Jets and the Titans. But one big trade that Buffalo made that actually might help out the receiving core and actually probably helped out Josh Allen in a major way was trading for Amari Cooper, which I think it was kind of a cat and mouse type of thing with the Jets and themselves because the Jets, which Brian will talk about, did trade for a receiver,
Oh yeah.
somebody that is very familiar to Aaron Rodgers himself. Um, was kind of tied to Buffalo, kind of tied to New Orleans and the other team there. But I think this was a trade that Buffalo needed to make. He's not a very cocky type of player. Somebody that can come in, make an impact right away, which he did. I mean, 4 catches, 66 yards and a touchdown. That's better than I expected, honestly. But Amari Cooper does come in, helps out the Buffalo receiving core, and does help the Bills sit at 5-2, sole possession of the AFC East. That game was kind of wishy-washy. Started off bad, thinking, "Oh man, here we go. Backup quarterback's going to be coming in and totally beating up on the Buffalo Bills in the first half." We're no stranger to Mason Rudolph at all. I mean, this is the man that came in last year with the Steelers and had a halfway decent game in that wild card loss. So we're no stranger to him. But Amari Cooper, I think, is going to be a big guy. If he gets a lot more comfortable in that offense, could open up, more targets for Keon Coleman, for Khalil Shakir, for Dalton Kincaid. I think it's a good thing for the offense. Could the defense be better? Yeah, there's a lot of injuries, but a lot of the guys that were injured are starting to come back and making this defense what it is. Matt Milano is still on the shelf. It does suck. But I'm going to lead into my second.
Oh, before you do that, I do want to weigh in. Sorry, I do want to weigh in on that Coleman, or I'm sorry, that Amari Cooper trade. First off, again, he did lead the league in drops going into Buffalo, but again, how much of that can be attributed to Deshaun Watson, who, by the way, is out for the year now, torn Achilles. He'll end probably his Browns career with more overturned court cases than touchdowns, but we'll digress from that. I think it's a good pickup. I felt like it didn't really change or move the needle for the Bills in terms of the division, and I feel like they've been a shoo-in for the division win this entire season. So let me just get that out of the way first. Number 2, right. I don't feel like it moved the needle in the postseason. We'll talk a little bit about, the second point I'm sure Jason's got here. We're going to dive into that, which I think is actually a good segue. I don't feel like it moves the needle in January, though, just yet. But again, time will tell.
I mean, probably won't. But again, yeah, Amari Cooper did lead the league in drops, and he did have that crucial drop in his first target for Buffalo. And then all Bills fans were like, did we just trade for the wrong guy? This man just dropped an easy pass from Josh Allen. All Browns fans were like, have fun with him. And then he caught all the other targets that were coming his way and looked pretty decent. But I will find it hilarious that on that, the audible, Cooper turns to Coleman and is like, what do I do? I just got here like 4 days ago. What do I do? And he's like, just, go straight and just, be ready for the ball. And that happened to be Cooper's very first Buffalo Bills touchdown, by the way. But speaking of Keon Coleman, that man had his best career game of his rookie season, which could be attributed to Amari Cooper being on the other side, getting Coleman more touches and taking the stress off of Coleman. So this is why I think that a trade for Amari Cooper might be beneficial for Coleman in his development going 100%. Forward, because now the weight can be off his shoulders. He doesn't feel like he has to do everything out there on that offense. Same thing with Khalil Shakir, who has been the most consistent receiver all year long.
So see, it also takes the pressure off of Dalton Kincaid, another person you forgot to mention in that.
I will admit.
But this everybody eats mentality that the Bills had adopted this year. Now look, it's great. It's got its pros, but it also has its cons in that everybody's getting covered the same, but
Mhm.
as far as everybody eats, I'm not opposed to it. You do need to have a bona fide number one. Look at the Chargers right now, and I'll talk about that shortly. But
Right.
the Chargers are an everybody eats mentality, and look at it. It's all wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. The Bills' wide receiving cores, besides Amari Cooper, who we know is a number one on almost any roster, he's not a number
Right.
one in Minnesota. He's not a number one in LA for the Rams. He's,
No.
I could name a couple other places he's not a number one, but it's very few and far between where he's not the number one. Everybody in
Right.
Buffalo, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, they're easy number twos anywhere in the league. Though, I think, number 2, number 3 in the league, whereas the Chargers have all number 3s. But again, I'll get into that shortly.
I will point this out that even with like Stephon Diggs, he didn't really there was maybe a case for Gabe Davis being that second, but he was very inconsistent. I think that now with Buffalo, and this might be a very tough thing to put out there, this might be the better of the receiving core that I have seen out of Buffalo in some time.
Yeah.
Only because you got a guy that Khalil Shakir can come out of the slot and be a consistent guy for like a consistent 2 or 3. Coleman can be proven to be, I think, a consistent second option if he gets a little bit more comfortable in that offense. Amari Cooper, by far is going to be the number one receiver, hence why they brought him in. And the cool thing is, he was a dirt cheap option, which made sense because of the cap space that Buffalo has right now, which will be interesting heading into the offseason. But of course, I'm not going to be talking about that right now. But Keon Coleman did have his very first 100-yard game in that game against the Titans. Josh Allen threw for 323 passing yards, which we haven't seen it all year. Josh Allen has been maybe very conservative with his passing because he hasn't had great receivers. This was a receiving core that at one point had Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Matt Collins, MVS, Curtis Samuel. Now you got Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins. It's still very inconsistent. Of course, I gotta see what they do against really good teams, especially teams that are playing upcoming forward. But going forward, it looks pretty promising. But can they just do it in the postseason when it matters? Is the real true question.
Yeah, definitely for that. But again, I just don't know. I gotta say though, trading with the Chiefs, that was a bad thing to do, to give him Xavier Worthy, obviously, but also you guys gutted that entire defense, and really, at the end of the day, it doesn't look like the offense really has solved the first and second quarter issues. So that's things I worry about when they go against a team, because I feel like they're going to be a 4 at this rate. Maybe it moved the needle to a 3, a fringe 3 seed, but I feel like this is more a 4 seed because of how good Houston and Baltimore and Kansas City are rolling right now. And again, I think we'll talk more about where we think the playoffs are going to go, maybe a little bit once we kind of get past this segment. Maybe we can talk about that. But I do feel, again, if it moved the needle, you gotta have kind of a magnifying glass to see where it moved it. That's all I'm gonna say. But all right.
Can't go wrong with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian with his summary so far.
I had thought you were going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins, but
I mean,
I
yeah,
oh, I see you edited that out. All right, see,
I did.
it's only our first episode back. Let's cut us a little bit of slack right here. Okay, so he called an audible on me, one I didn't expect, which, hey, maybe I'm like Amari Cooper in that sense that I didn't expect the audible. But anyway, so I do want to talk about the Chargers. We're at 3-3 right now. Of course, very happy with my guy Jimbo right there. Big signing this offseason, getting the head coach that we've always needed. But 3-3. I kind of expected middle of the road, and I know we didn't have a show to kind of preview the season, but I had been telling Jason, I'd been telling everybody, yes, the record leans toward, man, if the Chargers don't make the playoffs on this easy of a schedule, there's something wrong. But I had always said 9-8. I said 9-8, maybe we're the 7th seed, maybe we make the playoffs, but I expect next year to be the better year talking cap space. And by the way, going off topic on cap space, can someone explain to me how the Broncos have almost 80 mil? Can someone in the comments explain that to me?
I guess their GM just knows financial prowess. I don't know.
I don't know how you know financial prowess when you're paying out the wazoo for Russell Wilson, but hey, what do we know? But I heard rumors, of course, trade deadlines coming up in the next couple weeks. There's rumors swirling the Chargers could trade in-house for Cooper Kupp, and that they could also trade in-house, then they can trade with the Jets for Mike Williams, as clearly Mike Williams and Aaron Rodgers are not getting along very well and not on the same page. But to be fair, is anybody on the Jets besides Devontae and Nathaniel Hackett on the same page as Rodgers?
To be truthfully honest with you, I don't think the Jets really truly need Mike Williams anymore now that they have Wilson and Devontae Adams. But
man, this Chargers and Mike Williams relationship, when you break up with a girl and you think, okay, she's just not good enough for me. And then 2 days without her and you're running back to her. That's the sort of shit the Chargers are pulling right now with Mike Williams.
Right.
We got rid of the guy. We said, well, we don't need him. He's not viable for our long-term success. And sure enough, he gets scooped up by the Jets. We were about to sign him again in free agency. I don't understand the logic behind this, but I do understand that Mike Williams has a rapport with Justin Herbert, which, again, I'm kind of levying, at least for me, who I'd like to see them get. I've heard David Njoku's in the trade rumors for the Chargers. I don't imagine that trade's going to come before Halloween because that's who the Chargers play after Halloween. I believe that's when the deadline is, too. Or thereabouts. Maybe the week after.
November 5th at 4:30 is exactly when the trade deadline is done and over with. So teams have until November 5th, 4:30 to make a trade. So
all right.
Anything is possible.
They'll wait. I'm saying.
But
I'm just
might be the better option, maybe. I don't know.
Kupp's kind of older. It's not that I don't. And again, going back to what I said when we were talking the Bills, I said that, the Chargers have an all wide receiver 3 core. And that's essentially what I believe. They do have a wide receiver 3 core right now. These are guys who, frankly, they're going to make rosters. They're not going to be, 1 or 2 necessarily. And, and I don't mean to say it, put down I'm going to call him what he really is, Ladide McConkey. I'm not going to put down my wide receiver because I think in the future he's going to be a viable number 2 option. I don't know about a number 1, lad size. He's more of a Wes Welker or Danny Amendola type receiver, which will be great. It'll be great to use him in the slot, use him in these, unique formations and stuff. So I like that. And again, I said from the beginning, I'm not nervous about this year, but the one thing I am going to say though, that I said I was going to damper my expectations. What I am going to say I'm nervous about is right now we just lost to the Cardinals, a team that's wildly inconsistent. We lost to the Steelers, a team that's got a real identity crisis on offense. Of course, they don't know who's the quarterback each week, but they know one thing's consistent. They're going to get to 9-8. They're probably going to make the playoffs, and the defense is going to be top 10 in the league. So those are the consistents that are going to happen every year with the Steelers. But the quarterback room, to lose that game's kind of hurtful. To lose to the Chiefs by 7, and we had no Derwin James, no Joe Alt, I don't think we had a top corner or top receiver in that game, and we definitely didn't have Bosa. So I would just say that in a way, and me being a coach, I don't believe in small victories, but I think this one's warranted. Just because to lose to 7 only to lose by 7 to the back-to-back defending champs, regardless of what each roster looks like, is a win. So, I gotta say that, long-term, I think this team's a 6 seed at best. I think just the balance of the middle of the AFC right now, I feel like they're right on par with the middle of the AFC right now. So I feel like this is a team that's probably going to see Baltimore. They're definitely going to see Baltimore or Houston in the first round of the playoffs. They're definitely going to get bounced in the first round. But I'm looking ahead, 80 mil in cap space this offseason. We know there's going to be receivers available. And boy, do we need them, because I could tell you right now, the one thing that's going to hinder the Chargers from getting this 5 or 6 seed is they're too damn predictable. Okay?
Yeah.
They're too damn predictable because first down, J.K. Dobbins is getting the ball. Why do you think he's getting stuffed every week after the first 2 weeks that he had an implosion? Then, third down, you got to play essentially deep because Herbert's going to throw the ball. So it's things like that. Marty Ball doesn't work. And I'm not saying ditch Greg Roman just yet. But let's face it, based on the talent of this roster, I feel like it hinders really what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman are able to do. Because, again, when your running backs are stronger than your wide receiver core, in today's day and age, it doesn't work that well.
Typically not. For instance, Frank Wright was a very run-heavy type of guy. It didn't work well with him in Indianapolis. Greg Roman has been a lot of places, San Fran, Buffalo, Baltimore. I think the only real true team that he had the most success with was in Baltimore because Lamar can run. He had a great running back. He had J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore.
Oh, Greg Roman you're talking about. My bad.
Yeah.
You were on the Frank Reich thing for a second, but...
Yeah. Well, I was talking about Frank Wright with Indianapolis, and then I was talking about Greg Roman with San Fran, Buffalo, Baltimore. And now, of course, with
Frank Reich didn't work out in Indy because it's Indy, and it's Jim Irsay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that team, and I still insist. I don't think they should have fired Frank Reich. I think he's a guy who could still be in a head coaching situation. And there's going to be a lot of vacancies this offseason, by the way. not to get off topic, but let's face it, there are teams that now are going to be playing chess in terms of how to do away with coaches, or what to do with their coaches rather.
Right.
Because you got Bill Belichick on the market right now. You've got Mike Vrabel, who's 100% getting a head coaching gig this offseason. We're going to be talking about Robert Saleh in a little bit. Robert Saleh could very well be in the running. And then add in, and to go back to the Bills, assuming they get bounced in January again, or get bounced in early January, I think what's going to happen in Buffalo could very well be determined by what happens in New Jersey with Brian Dable.
Right.
So I feel like there's going to be a lot of more reaction than action this offseason, if that's fair to say.
No, that's fair.
But to go off of that, though, to say, hot seats, obviously Jim Harbaugh's not on a hot seat. I do feel like Greg Roman might be headed toward it. I feel like the seat's got to be warm. But again, and I look at this roster, how much we had to gut to get the cap space that we're going to have. I don't know that you can totally fault him because, frankly, this is just cleaning up. This is just taking a giant dump truck and cleaning up Tom Telesco's mess. That now,
right.
But again, I have full faith in the roster. I think, again, I expected this year to be rough. I didn't expect it, I guess in a way it's shattering expectations, but it's not, they're essentially, they're a team that everybody's rooting for, but they're a boring ass team right now. That's about it. The games go faster than any other game in the NFL right now, if I had to guess. But with that, let's go on to the second point. And this is about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Of course, it's very clear Woody Johnson's going to do anything that Aaron Rodgers tells him to do. Fire Robert Saleh. Okay, we got you. Go trade for Devontae Adams. Yeah, we can do that. This week they're probably going to trade for Aaron Jones before the trade deadline. Who knows? But it's so dysfunctional. And, I think I said last year before, we went off the air for quite a bit, I had said, as far as the Bills offensive coordinator thing goes, why is a quarterback, even though he's the face of your franchise, why does he bear decision-making in coach hirings? And this is where, I said, well, Josh Allen hasn't really advanced past January. So where does he get off saying who is offensive coordinators? Aaron Rodgers hasn't won a Super Bowl in 15 years. Okay? He hasn't won a Super Bowl in almost 15 years. He hasn't even been close to a Super Bowl in over 15 years. So at some point, when do you revoke his privilege to say, you don't get to determine who your coaches are. You don't get to determine who your surrounding players are. You want to be the GM, you can retire and do that for a living.
Right.
Right now, we're not winning football games like we expected to. You don't get a say anymore. It's learn to get along, cut it out with this darkness retreat, Pat McAfee once a week bullshit, and get to work.
Right.
And,
See,
and add in for freezing cold takes later, that this should be a freezing cold take, that they said that the Jets are going to the Super Bowl, winning the AFC East, and winning the number 1 seed.
Yeah, every analyst was saying that too. I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. This is a team that's sitting at 2-5, even bringing in Devontae Adams, who, by the way, had 9 targets, 3 receptions, and 30 yards. How is that a great debut for Jets fans there? How is how was that trade for Devontae Adams really working out for you, Rodgers? I mean, I get it. He still has to work up the speed, but it's sad that even Amari Cooper had a better debut than you did. You, I mean, yeah, he only had 5 targets total in that game compared to your 9. But if you're forcing the ball to Devontae Adams, who defenses are going to be, mainly going to him, you would think, okay, we can use him as a decoy, try to get Garrett Wilson more involved in that offense. If you're Nathaniel Hackett, you got to be fired at this point because you just have talent around you on that offense, and you still can't do anything. Of course, they're not going to get rid of Rodgers because Rodgers literally has that team,
Colin Cowherd made a...
You know the term. I'm not going to say it, but you know the term.
Colin Cowherd had a good term for this. Of course, the term was Aaron Rodgers seeks comfort. He doesn't seek winning. He seeks comfort. And, that's why Nathaniel Hackett didn't lose his job. He should have been the guy to lose his job, not Robert Saleh. Obviously it's very clear that Aaron Rodgers' success in Green Bay was attributed to Matt LaFleur.
I will say this now. Nathaniel Hackett technically did lose his job, even though he's still the offensive coordinator. He's just not the play caller anymore, if that makes any sort of sense to the Jets organization.
Everything dysfunctional. Yeah. It's all dysfunctional. And it's because they thought they could win with a 40-year-old quarterback who's been injured quite often, has been up until really his trade to the, up until really, the last 3 years has been nothing but dysfunctional. He's been the king of dysfunction and cadence. In terms of, if he's not winning, boy, is he going dark fast. So, at what point do you say he's the problem? He can go on Pat McAfee every single day and cry and whine and say he's not the issue there, and that nobody's having fun here. Everybody's angry. No one's having fun. Of course everybody's angry. You had a Super Bowl defense and a Super Bowl defensive coach in charge of the team. Okay, Robert Saleh is not an offensive mind, and we all know this. But Robert Saleh coaches one hell of a defense. And by the way, we're going to be talking more about him in a little bit. But, seeking comfort and helping your friends is not always the way to go. No. Okay. At some points, you got to kind of look at this and say, I want to do what's best for the team. I've had to make quite a few decisions in the past where it's like, do I go for glory? And if I don't get it, do I just shut down? Or do I just say, you know what, let's do what's best for everybody? Let's do what's best for the situation, even if it doesn't mean that what I'm doing or what my ideas are the best solutions. It's very clear that Aaron Rodgers has gone my way or the highway. And, nobody can rein him in, because if you rein him in, you'll be gone the next week. He's essentially taking on the Tony Soprano role with the New York Jets, except nobody's getting whacked, in terms of dead bodies found everywhere. People are getting whacked in terms of they're out of jobs next week. Right. So, but with that, I kind of rest my case with this. But, again, as far as if the Jets are going to make the playoffs, I mean, they may. They may very well. They're going to be 7. They're going to be out first round.
I mean, if they make the playoffs, they really got to turn it around, starting with this week. That's the only way they can make playoffs, to be truthfully honest with you.
They got a long road ahead of them, and I said to you, and I've said to a few others the past few weeks, the Bills could, and this was before the Amari Cooper trade, of course, but I'd said the Bills could win this division ugly, but I really said the Jets are no threat to the Bills. The Dolphins are no threat to the Bills. And, well, we know where the Patriots are. But I had said the Bills will win this division ugly, be out in January. maybe the Jets make the playoffs, but they're going to be bounced in the first round too. And I guess maybe we can talk about, before we go to the next stories here, what we think the playoff picture is going to look like.
Yeah, I think it might still be a little too early. I mean,
we're halfway through the year.
of course, I would say Kansas City, Baltimore, Houston, Buffalo would all be in there for, the division leaders. I'm going to put as a dark horse, I'm going to say Pittsburgh. Because they're 5-2. I think Russ can really turn it around being the starter for the rest of the year. Finally find success outside of Seattle for the first time. I'm thinking maybe the Chargers. It's tough to tell. And then as far as the 7th seed or the last wild card team, it's a toss-up at this point. I don't know.
See, if the Chargers could get a wide receiver or tight end at the deadline, which I think if we're going to deal for David Njoku, we have to expect that it's going to happen after the Cleveland game, because why would you deal him just to come back to your place and play you guys and potentially torch you? If you make that trade this Tuesday and Njoku goes to the Chargers and plays against the Browns and they beat you with David Njoku, it's GM suicide right there. It is GM career suicide. So why would you do it? So, and again, I'm going to kind of go over here. As far as the AFC goes, I honestly think, though, the Chiefs have built up such a lead. They've got the tiebreakers right now. I would believe that they're going to be the first seed. Do I think they're going to go 17-0? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would say number 2, of course, I think is going to be Baltimore. Baltimore, it may be the first time in a while, first time really ever, the best team in the AFC is going to be the number 2 seed. Because I truly believe that the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in football right now. Number 3, of course, Houston. If Houston can stay healthy, they could be a team that could run to the AFC title, I think. Just on talent alone, I think they're a good team. DeMeco Ryans is a hell of a coach. So that's a team that I think could make a serious run. The Buffalo Bills are the definitive number 4. Their team, I think they're going to need kind of a middle-of-the-road number 5 if they're going to move past the first round. Which I think, right now, of course, Pittsburgh holds that spot. Indianapolis is in the race. Denver's in the race, To be honest, I think once you go below Pittsburgh, again, Cincy's kind of in the race. I think if they can get to a 5 seed, I think if they could get to a 5 or 6, they can surprise. I would say that they're probably going to be a 6. And looking at the rest of it, I think Denver, I think it's going to be Denver, LA, and Cincy in the playoffs. I think we're going to get 2 AFC West teams in. Bo Nix is playing ridiculously good right now. Sean Payton, there's the comparisons to Drew Brees, of course, just on playability. So I'm not going to really put them in order of what I think it's going to be. I think any one of those teams could get the 5, 6, or 7. I think Pittsburgh's going to be kind of that team that's going to, I think Pittsburgh, LA, it's going to be a dogfight. Of course, we know Pittsburgh holds the tiebreaker in that. But I think that's going to be the battle. Pittsburgh, Cincy, it's going to be a 4-way race. Don't even rule out Indy in this. Indy could be a dark horse to make the playoffs. I know they're in right now. But I just don't know if they can hold true. Anthony Richardson's been hurt. I think Pittman's been hurt this year.
Right.
So I would say definitely Denver and LA are going to be two of the teams. And I think if Cincy can keep up this phenomenal. Here's the thing, and I'm going to put a bold take out there before I kind of get, the thoughts on this. If Joe Burrow and the Bengals got off to a hot start this year, Joe Burrow would be leading the MVP race right now, just on how he's playing. It's funny.
Right.
He's playing good on a bad team, and Patrick Mahomes is playing bad on a good team.
I know.
So the NFL's quite backwards.
But somehow Mahomes will still win MVP regardless of how bad he's doing. Even though I can make a strong argument that it probably should be Josh Allen, who's got 15 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah, no interceptions this year. But, it really leans toward, to me, it's going to probably be Lamar. It should be Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry's the clear difference maker in making that team look good this year. I read something that Derrick Henry's got like more rushing yards than 17 or 18 NFL franchises right now total.
It's crazy.
So Derrick Henry's having a resurgence here at age 30 for a running back.
Which is usually when the running backs start, going downward.
Yeah, exactly. But with that, what are we thinking NFC wise?
I would say I can make a strong case that the whole entire NFC North might be in.
I think that's a very scary and real possibility.
Because it can happen. They could be the very first division that all 4 teams make the playoffs, which I'm going to stand by that. I think that the whole entire NFC North is going to make it in, which I think is insanely crazy to think about, but that's already your 4 teams right there. San Fran is just too inconsistent. I think I'm going to make this strong point because of all the injuries, especially with Debo. Debo has pneumonia.
Yeah, prayers up.
I wish him
prayers up
for him to come back healthy. Ayuk, unfortunately, just tore his ACL and MCL, so he is out, unfortunately, the rest of the year. Kittle has been fighting back injuries, but it's looking like him and Pearsall are probably going to be the top targets for Brock Purdy.
And Pearsall was
in
shot.
A very inconsistent San Fran team.
And Pearsall was shot in the gut.
And came back afterwards. It's a miracle he's even playing right now, honestly. But San Fran, I can't see making it. I think that they're going to be the first Super Bowl team to miss playoffs after making it last year, or making it all the way to the Super Bowl, which is absolutely insane. McCaffrey, we don't even know if he's going to play this year at all.
Fantasy owners feel pretty bad right now.
It's tough. See, other than the NFC North, it is tough to think of who else can be there. To be honest with you, Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Washington being in there. Washington for sure.
Can we give
is
kudos?
A very dark horse team.
Can we give kudos to Josh Harris and the job he has done to build up that franchise? I mean, we were laughing at him, when he hired Dan Quinn.
Mind you, everyone that's listening on, I was talking with Brian. I'm like, I could see Washington being that kind of team because Jaden Daniels is just playing lights out football right now, and
he could be in the MVP race.
He should be, even though I don't think he's going to be, but he should be. If not that, probably offensive rookie of the year. by far.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
clear winner of Offensive Rookie of the Year should be Jaden Daniels.
I agree with that. It's
then the other two teams after that. It's a big toss up for an NFC. It really is. This is a year where I could see it being Detroit making it all the way. Honestly, they might be the clear cut team to do it in the NFC.
Well, I think,
but other than that, I don't know. It's a toss up for an NFC. There's like at least maybe 5 teams right there that could be in it, and then other 2 teams afterwards. I have no idea, honestly.
Can I add in, of course, we're recording on a Thursday, but I do want to add in a little bit of breaking news. It looks like Puka Nacua is trending toward playing on Sunday, so that could be good. Of course, the Cooper Kupp trade rumors coming in. This team could break up the NFC North stranglehold right now on the playoff spots. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think it's probably going to go... I imagine San Fran's going to get it together and take that division.
I will say that I can see Seattle possibly making playoffs, too.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. I think Detroit is honestly the team to beat right now in the NFC. They're just steamrolling through it right now. I mean... we thought last year, and I'm sorry, I got to point the finger at you. You've been hating on the Lions for quite a while. Okay. You said right before we stopped, you said Dan Campbell's going to lose his job if he doesn't make the playoffs. You said Dan Campbell's going to lose his job if he's out first round. Then you said after the NFC Championship, their window's closed, the Packers are coming. And look at where they're at.
Packers are still in there. That's what I'm saying. The whole entire NFC North, it's tough. Anybody could win the NFC North right now. That's how good that division is.
I feel like Aiden Hutchinson might have just caused the Detroit Lions to not call game on it. Because if Aiden Hutchinson was healthy, I would be definitively sitting here and telling you that there is no way in hell the Detroit Lions are losing that number 1 spot. I do think they're going to be the number 1 seed. I think, looking at the NFC, Washington's clearly the number 2 right now. And again, kudos to Josh Harris. He has built a winning organization. That's exactly how you do it. He is playing, I like to say chess versus checkers. Josh Harris is playing chess. The rest of that division right now is playing Connect 4. Okay? The rest of that division's playing Connect 4. It's not even close. Okay?
Yeah.
The Eagles are a dysfunctional mess.
Very inconsistent all year. The Cowboys has been very inconsistent this year. I'm trying to think of who else is from that division.
Giants.
The Giants have just been a dumpster fire.
The Giants, it's 99% quarterback problem. And that's something that John Mara refuses to accept.
Right.
So, but again, I think Detroit's going to be number 1. Washington's going to be the clear-cut number 2. I'm looking at, the NFC West. I do think San Fran's going to get it together. I think they're going to get healthy pretty soon. It's going to be a little bit of a tough battle. I could see even LA come out of it. I just don't think Geno Smith and the Seahawks are the team to do it. But I think whoever does is going to be the number 4. Atlanta, I think, is going to make the number 3. 'Cause boy, Kirk Cousins has got that team rolling right now.
I almost forgot about Atlanta. Atlanta could, be an underdog NFC team this year.
Yeah. And Green Bay is going to be a clear-cut number 5 because they're easily the second best team in the NFC. But, of course, because of the way the seeding works, they're going to be number 5. I would say, Minnesota, just based off the start they've gotten so far with Sam Darnold, they're going to be the number 6. Number 7, I think it's a toss-up. I think it could be the Bears. And, and I had told you at the beginning of the year, everyone's going to blame Eberfluss and say if they don't win, he should be fired. But this is the first time in a long time that a rookie quarterback has come into the league and he's had, bona fide number 1 receivers. I mean, Rome Odunze could be a number 1 anywhere in the league right now. DJ Moore is easily right now a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, just based on play this year. Keenan Allen, we know he can be top 5, top 10 on great days. So this was one where I said, I'm sorry, if Caleb Williams fails, it's on Caleb Williams. So, but I think, I think I look at Tampa and Philly as teams that can take that spot, maybe even LA. The Rams, I think once they get Puka Nacua back, that's going to be a team that could be not a contender, but a disruptor. I think they could be a disruptor in the NFC.
True.
But hey, that's our picks for the division. Let's quickly kind of rifle through. I know we wanted to take a midway break, but let's kind of just rifle through. We're at 51 minutes right now. Of course, let's do our freezing cold take of the week. Of course, Mad Dog and Tony Romo both going on air and saying John Harbaugh is a top 10 coach all time. Mad Dog doubled down. Now, he argued against it a week ago, and then this week changed his mind. He flip-flopped and said John Harbaugh is top 10 all time. And initially he said Lamar Jackson is best in the league right now. How can you call a guy the best in the league when he can't even beat the current best in the league? He's 1-5 against them all time.
I mean, Lamar Jackson, there's definitely a reason why he's a 2-time MVP. But just like Josh Allen, just like Burrow, just like Lamar Jackson, you can't be the best quarterback in the NFL if you can't beat the best quarterback in the NFL currently right now. And I hate to say it, as much as it bugs me to say it, until you can prove that you can beat him in the regular season and also the playoffs, then maybe, you can be the best. Burrow, I think, can make a strong case for it, but he also is 0-1 in the Super Bowl, where Mahomes is what?
Yeah.
3-1? I mean,
and of course his only blemish is to Brady, which I make that argument too. How can you call Patrick Mahomes the greatest of all time when he couldn't beat the greatest of all time? Okay.
Exactly, that's true too.
And I'm going to make that argument, and you can say I'm a salty Chargers fan. I don't care what you got to say about it. It's, but I think, Lamar, if I'm going to rank top 5 quarterbacks, and I will go in order, right now it's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and frankly, I'm going to put C.J. Stroud in the top 5 right now. I think C.J. Stroud is playing top 5 level. So there it is right there. As far as top 10 coaches all time, John Harbaugh isn't even top 15. Why are we, having this discussion? It's, John Harbaugh is, I'm not going to discredit him. He's a great coach. Very deserving of his position. He's, if he wins another Super Bowl, does he move up the ladder? Absolutely. But he's not top 15 right now. If he can win a couple Super Bowls with Lamar, maybe I'll change my stance on this. So I don't feel like it's one where you slam the door shut necessarily, but it's one where you kind of just gently shut it. But you shut it, or you shut it in a way that it sort of does make a noise.
Right.
Or give you that effect. But anyway, that's our freezing cold take of the week. That's what we're going to rename this segment now. But with that, let's talk about Robert Saleh. We'll go through these headlines kind of quick because we do want to get to our picks. Robert Saleh was hired this week as a Packers defensive consultant. Of course, Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur are great friends outside of the game. So I guess, does this surprise you in any way that he was hired?
Not really. I mean, it kind of helps out that Packer defense. I mean, they've had some really good defenses, especially with those years that they were 13-4, winning that division constantly. So, I mean, it's not far off. Plus, I mean, Robert Saleh was Matt LaFleur, or Matt LaFleur, I think, was actually the best man of Robert Saleh's wedding. So I guess it doesn't make any.
Oh, don't tell the women that. Don't tell the women that. You know how many women fawn over Robert Saleh?
I know, but yeah, it doesn't shock me. I mean, could he potentially get another? Yeah, I think he's on track to being another head coach or defensive coordinator. So I mean, being a Packers defensive consultant is definitely the first step before becoming one. And it wouldn't shock me that after the season, Matt LaFleur is like, you're going to be the defensive coordinator. You're going to be calling the defense going forward. And then if, because I don't, Matt LaFleur, after what's going on with this season with Jordan Love really stepping up into being the starting quarterback, has really kept his job alive. So, I mean.
So, see.
But, yeah, it doesn't shock me with Robert Saleh being with the Packers, honestly.
Not at all. And, just to feed off of that, of course, we know, and I said this earlier with the Jets, Robert Saleh builds Super Bowl defenses. He builds Super Bowl caliber defenses. Okay, Matt LaFleur builds top 5 offenses in the league. Okay, I would say that, or top 10 offense, something like that. I would say he builds winning teams, that's for sure. I don't think there's many years he's had a losing record, if at all. So, I think, if this ends up being a defensive coordinator position, you said last year that you thought the Lions' window was going to close. I think it's going to be slammed shut if they hire Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator. Because, let's face it, again, give Robert Saleh a couple years to build up a defense. He's probably going to get a couple guys from the Jets, because I know that it just, to me, it seems like a lot of the Jets gave up defensively once he was fired. I wouldn't be shocked to see that happen. And to be honest, that could make the Packers in its own right. I would go as far to say they're a team that could beat the Chiefs every year if they hire him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I can see that.
I would go as far to say that, honestly. So, but let's move on to the next headline here. And of course, this one about Tua Tagovailoa. He has officially been cleared to return to practice, non-contact. He still hasn't cleared concussion protocol, but is on track to play today. That is as of Thursday. He was asked in a press conference if he was going to wear a Guardian cap, to which he responded, absolutely not. Should he be cleared to return, or should he just start taking his health into consideration and maybe hang the helmet up?
I mean, this is going to be his third chance to really prove himself that he can stay healthy and play. I say, yeah, he has every right to play if he gets cleared. Should he wear the Guardian cap? There could be reasons to yes, he should. Reasons for no, he shouldn't. I think yes, it would be beneficial. It would definitely possibly help reduce the risk of getting one. Not saying that he still couldn't with the Guardian cap on. It just would reduce the risk of him getting it. I will say this now, Tua. If you are not going to, please, for the love of God, start sliding or running out of bounds more often. You shouldn't be taking these straight shots to the helmet because clearly it's affecting you in a major way. Um, but I really do think he should take his health into consideration. I mean,
Mhm.
the dude's a dad. He has a young child, too. He should really think about his family and himself and his safety than putting his like sometimes you gotta put your pride aside. I get it, you're a football player, you've been doing it for years. This is
Mhm.
what you wanna do and you wanna strive for greatness as a football player. But I think you also gotta put your safety and your family into consideration of how did they think how do they feel with you getting all these concussions? You know, you know. So
Well,
yeah.
we we look at constantly, how it's impacted players that have retired. Of course, Antonio Brown, we see it daily with him. We won't even get into the specifics of CTESPN, but let's face it, he's definitely got some issues. You know, Junior Seau, another one. Look at Brett Favre now. Brett Favre is battling Parkinson's disease, and he's only in his mid to late 50s. So it's things that, it's points where you should look at those guys, and I'm not saying that you're going to end up just like those guys, but you should take a
Mm-hmm.
look at it and see it as a real possibility if you want to keep playing. And again, these guys live for the risks. I mean, I go to IndyCar races every single year, or I go to NASCAR races every single year. You go to wrestling events, and yes, there's things that are, like the outcomes in that are staged, but the injuries and everything aren't. Okay? So they got to take their
Mm-hmm.
health into consideration. IndyCar and NASCAR, the amount of innovations that there have been since Dale Earnhardt died, since Dan Weldon and Justin Wilson died. There's been a lot of innovations. NFL has started to come around and see those innovations and come out with their own to, help alleviate this concussion issue.
Mm-hmm.
Tua's essentially throwing it back in their face. I'm not saying there's going to be detrimental impacts, but I'm saying that these are things Tua needs to start considering. These are things Tua's gotta, maybe sit back and take a little more thought into how he wants to go forward with this. Again, having such a young family, having, a wife at home, and all that. And look, he's when he's healthy, he is a top 10 quarterback. There's the other side of the argument there. He is a top 10 quarterback in the league, whether people want to admit it or not. He's a guy, frankly, without him, this Dolphins team isn't winning games. They're not going to be on the winning track without him. So those are things, look, you weigh both ends of it. But at the end of the day, health comes first. And, I kind of wish he would retire. And this is also to add to it why Will Greer and the Dolphins staff did not want to sign him to a $45-50 million deal to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. This was their
Right.
hesitations. This was their setbacks in terms of this. Now they're kind of stuck in a bad contract situation. I don't know if there's any way to avoid it. Um, but this is something I think the front office is having major regrets about because, frankly, and look, of course they're going to go in the media and defend him. Of course, every single week, Mike McDaniel's going to go in there and say, he's our guy, he's our guy. You have to. Because the second you go into the media and say, he's not our guy, I think he should reconsider his health, you're no better than Brandon Staley in terms of dividing and tearing up a locker room. Okay? So he has to do this for the sake of his job. He has to do this for the sake of his team's morale. So let's not act like, that we don't think the rest of the team is on the same page with this. Um, you know, but ultimately, I think if he can do so safely, by all means. But again, you can't wrap yourself in bubble wrap every single week and hope that you come out on the other end and only a few bubbles are popped. Okay,
Right.
this shit doesn't happen like that. So I think ultimately, Tua's again, what are you fighting for this year? I mean, 'cause you're way out of the race. You lost a lot of games that you needed to win. I mean, at the very least, you can rebuild the morale of the roster. And, I like it for that reason. I don't like it for life after football. That's where I stand on this. Um,
Right.
but with that, let's kind of go into our weekly picks here. And let me open up the app if it'll load for me. All right, so let's begin. Of course, we won't cover the Vikings and the Rams because we're recording on a Thursday. It's going up on a Sunday, so we'll kind of skip that game altogether. But we'll start with the Jets and the Patriots. The Jets are favored by 7.
I'm probably gonna say the Jets, just because New
Hmm.
England is just so inconsistent, and I think the Jets can get it going for that week. So yeah,
Hmm.
Jets.
I think Jets in a low score, but I do believe in Drake May. I think he's going to, his process, I don't think you can measure it to Jaden Daniels. I don't think you can measure it to Caleb Williams. But I think at the very least, you can say he's going to be slow and steady in terms of his development. So,
Hmm.
unfortunately, he's in the wrong division to be battling, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Jets. Eagles, Bengals. Bengals are favored by 3.
I just think this is gonna be a tough game, but
Hmm.
I might have to go Philadelphia here on the road. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah, Philly's team, of course, marred by injuries as well. Lots of retirements, lots of departures. But I gotta go Cincy. I think, if Joe Burrow can kind of just match the firepower of what's going to happen with the Eagles' offense in that game, I feel like he's got a real shot. Um, but Packers and Jaguars, Packers favored by 4. I think we both kind of have the same idea on this game.
I'm saying Green Bay. Yeah.
Hmm. I don't think this is a debate. It's Green Bay. Oh yeah, Titans Lions. I think we should just both put down Lions, right?
Yep.
Yep. So we'll move on. Falcons and Bucks. Um, Atlanta favored by 2.5.
I'm gonna say Atlanta. Tampa Bay just has too much,
Hmm.
too many injuries receiver wise. That's just gonna derail that game. So I'm gonna go Atlanta.
I liked them. I liked Tampa if they had Mike Evans. They don't. They're not gonna have Mike Evans this week. I don't think so. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with the Falcons here. Dolphins Cardinals. Dolphins favored by 3.5.
I just think that it's gonna be Arizona, and it doesn't matter if it's tour or not.
I just think Arizona's got a solid team. I just don't think the record reflects what this team really is. And this team is a mid team, but they're not a team that should be in the basement of their own conference. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. Ravens, Browns. Ravens favored by 8.5.
I'm gonna say Ravens.
Yep, I'm going to go same boat here. Colts, Texans. Texans favored by 5.
These two teams always play each other tough, but I'm gonna go Houston.
Yeah, I got to go Houston here too. I just don't think Indy's got the firepower to match with Houston. Saints Chargers, the first 4 o'clock game. Chargers favored by 7.
I don't know. This one's a tough one to choose. I'm gonna say the Chargers at home.
I agree. The Saints are pretty injured right now. I just don't think they're as good as they've been in the last few years. But I don't. I think 7's pretty generous. I think 7's maybe a little too generous to give them for the spread. So I'm still going to go Chargers, but I think it's going to be close, kind of boring. Bills, Seahawks, Buffalo favored by 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Buffalo. I'm gonna say that they're gonna win it. It's gonna be a tight, tough game. Not like it was in 2020 when they beat up Seattle at home.
I think this is going to be one that comes down to the last possession, to be totally honest with you. Just because, Seattle's probably, Seattle, of course, Arrowhead, both very tough places to play. Buffalo's a very tough place to play. I think those are the top 3 environments in the NFL. But I think Seattle takes the cake on it. But I think it's going to be the Bills. I think they can hold up just enough. I do like the spread there. Oh, sorry, my thing refreshed. Anyway, Bears Commanders. It's going to be Caleb Williams potentially versus Marcus Mariota in this game. But they got Chicago favored by 3.
Oh, Jaden Daniels is still hurt.
Yeah, rib injury.
I mean, Marcus Mariota is still pretty good. I mean, yeah, they just put down a beat down on the Panthers, but it's also the Panthers. I'm going to say Chicago slightly just because Daniels isn't playing.
I don't want to play the game of if Jaden Daniels plays, they're going to win. If he doesn't, the other team's going to win. But I'm going to go Commanders. I think Marcus Mariota, people really give him a lot of flack. They don't realize he's probably the best backup quarterback in the league. Okay, I would go as far to say that. So I'm going to go with the upset Commanders at home. Panthers, Broncos. Let's just both go Broncos, probably, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Chiefs, Raiders, yeah, we might as well just go with the Chiefs. I think that's pretty much a lock.
Yeah.
Cowboys, 49ers, this game I would say would normally be a lock, but it could be interesting. Of course, keep in mind, this game took a whole new twist in terms of a rivalry last time. George Kittle ripping up the shirt that says "fuck Dallas." And San Fran is favored by 4, but no Christian McCaffrey still.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Dallas on the road. San Fran is just hurting right now. Got too many injuries. It's just not looking good for them.
Dallas's run game is actually the worst in the league right now in terms of rushing yards. Their defense taking a hit and their O-line's just not that good. I believe in the San Francisco 49ers defense. I think they're going to hold themselves accountable. I don't think it's going to be a runaway game like it was last year and just out of control. I'd say it's going to be like a 13-10 type of game, and I'm going to pick the Niners here. Monday Night Football, oh boy, is anybody actually going to watch this one? Giants and Steelers. Steelers favored by 6.
They should be up. They should be favored by higher because I just can see Pittsburgh just trouncing the Giants on Monday night, especially at home.
Yeah, I just don't see. I don't see a way the Giants are winning this game. Not after the clinic that they put on last week versus the Jets.
But this is also a Giants team that also upset the Cincinnati Bengals and had a lot of sacks. So who knows?
It's all a possibility. But let's go to Thursday night Halloween. The Jets and the Texans. There's no spread yet for that game. But matchup predictor has the Jets winning.
No, Houston.
When are we going to quit riding Aaron Rodgers? I just got to say that. I got to start throwing that out there. Just sell your Aaron Rodgers stock at this point. Let's go with the Texans on this. So, but with that, that's our picks. That's our first episode back right there. Yeah. So we want to thank you guys for watching. Next week we're going to be in Cleveland. I don't know if we will be for the show itself, but the two of us Sunday morning will be in Cleveland. We got tickets to the Chargers and the Browns. It's going to be a heck of a show. And can I just say that I'm still kicking myself for not waiting to buy the tickets?
It's still going to be a good game regardless. I mean,
Fun.
maybe not a good game, but still going to be a fun time regardless.
It'll be a fun tailgate. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be a fun tailgate. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a party in Cleveland. Hey, if you see us there, maybe throw something at me because I'll be wearing a Chargers jersey. But hey, we hope to, if anybody watches this show, we hope to see you there. Hey, we hope to see you next week. So until then, thanks for sticking this out. We're going to try to get back into this weekly thing where we're talking, football and talking really any sport. Hopefully next week a little bit more, basketball, hockey, something. Of course, the World Series is also going on. So before we sign off, should we make our World Series predictions?
I mean, it's probably going to be Yankees and Dodgers, right?
The battle of the rich.
I'm going to say the Dodgers are going to take it.
So Dodgers pitching's not that great right now. Of course, there's a few games they've had to go bullpen. I think if the Dodgers can win this in 6, I think that's a possibility. Shohei Ohtani's bat. Let's not forget Mookie Betts as well. I think just the Dodgers are more overpowering than the Yankees. The Yankees bullpen's not that great either, so I'm going to lean toward the Dodgers. I think it's going to be a 6-game series. If it does go 7, I would have to say the Yankees, but,
right.
I'm going to go with the Dodgers here. But, yeah, with that, we want to thank you for watching. Let's get back into this weekly thing. Share this with a friend. Share this with anybody. Tune into Tinkle Group Gaming. Some new stuff's going to be coming out soon, too, over there. Yeah, I got to make that plug. We'll talk about it maybe next week when we have a little more time. But until next time, everyone, we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.